What if I told you that the capital of the United States was born out of a compromise so controversial it nearly tore the young nation apart? Imagine a political battle so intense that it required secret meetings, bold negotiations, and a high-stakes trade-off that would define the future of America. This is the remarkable story of how Washington, D.C. rose from swampland to become the beating heart of American democracy. The Compromise of 1790 and 1790, the United States was still in its infancy, a fragile experiment in democracy. The nation was deeply divided over economic and political priorities. The northern states, burdened by massive war debts from the American Revolution, wanted the federal government to assume their financial obligations to stabilize the economy. The southern states, however, had a different priority. Their agrarian economy was flourishing, and they feared that if the capital remained in the north, financial and political power would become permanently concentrated there. Their goal, to have the nation's capital positioned closer to their interests. The stage was set for a fierce standoff. Enter Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, two political titans with vastly different visions for the country. Over a private dinner arranged by Jefferson and attended by Hamilton and James Madison, a deal was struck. The federal government would take on the state's war debts, providing much-needed financial relief, and in return, the capital would be relocated to a southern site along the Potomac River. This compromise, known as the Compromise of 1790, would shape the trajectory of American history. The Residence Act and site selection. The Residence Act of 1790, signed by President George Washington, officially authorized the establishment of the new capital. Washington, who was deeply involved in selecting the site, chose an area along the Potomac River, spanning portions of Maryland and Virginia. The land was ceded by both states, creating a 10-mile square federal district that would not be under the control of any individual state. The new city was named Washington in honor of the first president, and the larger federal district was called the District of Columbia. To bring this vision to life, Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, a French engineer and architect, was appointed to design the city. L'Enfant's ambitious plan featured wide avenues, public squares, and grand buildings, inspired by European cities like Paris. His vision included the now famous National Mall, an area that remains central to the city's layout. However, disagreements with officials led to his dismissal before his plans were fully realized. Despite this, his design laid the birth of Washington, D.C. is deeply rooted in the early history of the United States and its quest for a neutral, centrally located capital. Before the creation of the city, the U.S. government operated from several locations, including New York City and Philadelphia. However, disputes among states over the location of the capital led to the need for a permanent seat of government. The decision to establish a new federal district came as part of a compromise between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, known as the Compromise of 1790. In a construction of Washington, D.C. faced numerous challenges. The land was largely undeveloped, consisting of swamps and forests, requiring significant work to prepare for building. Labor shortages, financial constraints, and political disagreements slowed progress. The federal government officially moved to the city in 1800, with the U.S. Capitol and the White House, then called the Executive Mansion, still under construction. Congress met in the unfinished Capitol building, marking the beginning of Washington, D.C. as the center of American governance. One of the early tests for the new capital came during the War of 1812, when British forces invaded and set fire to several key buildings, including the White House and the Capitol. The attack devastated the young city, but reconstruction efforts soon followed, reinforcing Washington, D.C.'s importance. Over the following decades, the city continued to grow, with the expansion of government institutions, monuments, and infrastructure solidifying its role as the heart of the United States. Today, Washington, D.C. stands as a symbol of democracy, home to the federal government, iconic landmarks, and a diverse population. Its creation was the result of political compromise, strategic planning, and determined effort, shaping it into the capital it is today. The vision set forth by the Founding Fathers continues to influence its development, making Washington, D.C. a city rich in history and national significance. From a heated political compromise to the creation of a city that now stands as a global symbol of democracy, the birth of Washington, D.C. is a story of ambition, conflict, and resilience. Every street, monument, and building carries echoes of the past, reminding us of the sacrifices and bold decisions that shaped the capital. What's your favorite part of Washington, D.C.'s history? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating stories about the city that helped shape a nation.